Okay, I want to welcome July meeting of the Cowcatcher Division. You're going to see some very unique things regarding military trains and military transports in the clinic that's being presented by Mike Mackey. In addition to the clinic, we have obviously our normal program, which includes tips and tricks, show and tell, deal or dud. And normally we have a layout tour after the meeting. Unfortunately, we're not going to have one this month, but it will return next month. But I do need people with layouts who are willing to have an open house after the meeting to contact me or see me after the meeting, and we'll schedule it for, I need September, October, November layouts. So I need three more layouts. I want to thank Steve Christ. I saw Steve Christ for doing a great presentation on Texas railroads and other Midwestern railroads. He put on a slideshow last month that was outstanding. Do we have? I see a lot of new faces, so I'd like to have each new guest or new guest stand up and tell us a little bit about themselves. So, any new members? Any guests? I know we got a guest or two. Dan Cook's brother.
Trey Cook from Louisiana. Met some of y'all a couple years
He
ago.
is.
Met some of y'all a couple years ago, showing back. And just here visiting my brother, put him with his layout. First club meeting, so.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Any other new faces? Any other guests, new members? Got a couple. Ken Fitzgerald is here. Hi, Ken. Okay. David Crumpton, I want to thank Texas Western for letting us meet here all the time. It makes it very simple, and we appreciate everything the club does for the division. Do you have any announcements?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. The Texas Western. Two things.
Can't hear you.
Hello, hello, hello. I don't know that the mic is on. Well, yes, it is. Okay, how about that? All right, better? Okay, when you came in the door, you should have been able to get an announcement about our garage sale August the 1st. August the 1st. Now, usually we would have this in October, but last year we had train show. This was going on. We built a caboose out in the center section of the property. We had so much going on, we were chasing our tails. So we said, let's do the garage sale earlier in the year and get it done. So August the 1st, please tell your friends, we have some fantastic prices. Got a lot of new stock. We have a lot of car kits, boxcar kits that Jerry Fussell has donated graciously. So we've got a lot of new stuff. Please come. That's the big thing. Grab one of these on the way out. If you did not get one, tell your friends. The next thing on the table on this side by where Mike Mackey is sitting are books and model railroaders that Jerry Fussell donated. If you would go through, if you want to go through there and look for some magazines for yourself, please help yourself. They're free. Free. Jay, do we have any memberships left for the Texas Western? We've got a few left. They're going fast. So if you almost limited, almost. So if you walk around the layout and you meet some of our guys and you say, hey, I have just got to join this club, please see Jay. He is our CAO, or talk to me, or Daryl Cowles. We would be glad to tell you all about how to join this august body of people. So that's all I've got. There, it's yours, Dick.
Okay, thank you, David.
Later. We changed on that. Later.
Okay, so I want to take a moment and welcome the people attending on Zoom. And if we could see the list of people. I know Bob Mangler was on there. Bob, welcome to the meeting. Glad you're here. How's everything out in West Texas?
Okay, how are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for a great 4th of July whistle. Keep up that good work. Gary, welcome.
Hi there. 2 months of travel. I'll be back in August.
Well, thanks for attending though. And Marty McCoy.
Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the meeting today. Thank you.
Well, very good. Welcome. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so David Graves report. David, I know it takes you a while, just like me.
Good morning. This report is in the Cowcatcher. This report is in the Cowcatcher, so I don't know why I have to read it, but I will. Opening balance was $28.98. We had receipts of $138, expenditures of $1,071, and ending balance of $1,965. Certificate of deposit was $23,831. We felt the balance was getting a little low, so the certificate of deposit matured last Monday. So we transferred $2,500 into our working funds from the CD. So next month's report will be significantly different. Thank you.
Any questions for David? Okay. Daryl Cowles, would you, you guys all saw the Promote the Hobby diorama that was here last month. Daryl, where are you at? Can you come up and kind of give us an update on the diorama, what's been going on with that? He's pulling out his wallet too. Look at this. Oh, it's not money, just notes.
Definitely not money. I placed the diorama that we had shown last month in the Watauga Library, which is right there by my house. It's a small library, but it's a very busy library, very active. They have a lot of family events. They do a lot of kiddos stuff. So they have pretty good traffic for a small library. I placed that in there, went up and talked to them and talked to Betty, who was the assistant director. Her name is Betty Gill, or no, Ewell. And they said, sure, you bet. So I took it up there. They've had a fit over it. I've gotten nice emails back from her, from the library director herself, and also the library adult services person, the director, saying how much they've enjoyed having that they had a lot of people stopped and looked at it. Not as many scans on the QR code as I'd like to see. We had about 20, but we had them from Anaheim, California, from Euless, several from Fort Worth. So there's some people from not just Watauga that saw the diorama. I talked to them Friday, I guess it was. I sent them some emails and said, okay, we're going to be moving it because we want to move it about once a month. And where would you suggest that we move it next? Getting them involved meant that they would probably help me contact the next library. So they did that, and we're going to look at moving it to the Halton City Library, which is a larger library. And they gave me the contact name and everything. I sent that lady an email this morning saying, you know, we'd come by next week, visit with you, see if this is it. I gave her some dimensions, pictures of it, and an introductory letter to the librarians that I have put together. And so hopefully that will get us started. Once we get into a 3, I believe it'll be real easy to move it to the next one. And also then, I was contacted by Tim
Blackwell
a couple of nights ago, and he wants to run an article on it in the Cowcatcher. So I sent him quite a bit of information. We talked for about an hour on the phone, sent him some information, some photos, things like that. He's excited about it, wants to run it in the Cowcatcher as a good idea for doing this. So between Howard and Dave and we came up with, I think, something that's going to work real well. Harold and Dave and I.
What you can send to my breakfast stuff. I can reach out to
what's his face? I swear to God, Mike, the ring is a piece of Swiss cheese. On a railroad office magazine.
Right.
A written article.
Yeah.
Fugate, Joe Fugate. And I'll see if they're interested in running an article.
I have, by the way, sent an article on the idea of doing this, not the build itself, but the idea of doing this to Cynthia Priest at NMRA. And I've also sent a copy of that same article to Gordy. I have not heard back from Gordy. I heard back from Cynthia, and she's wanting more detailed information on the build and materials of being built and this, that, and the other. And I said, this is not about the build. This is about the idea. This is how we've come across this group is, and truthfully, from the interest that we're seeing from people, everybody ought to feel very good about this because we've come up with something different. This is something different that nobody's done, and it seems to be generating its own interest. So I think everybody in Division 1 should be very proud that we're doing this. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. She's looking at it like I'm submitting a build article, and I've explained that no, yes, I built it. I sent you like 2 pictures of it getting built. But the main thing is I talked about this is a way of touching some people that maybe have not been exposed to or not, we haven't infected them properly with the model railroading hobby. And so, so we need to do that. Yes, Mike. Have not sent it to the marker lamp yet, but I can send that same article to them. Yeah.
Yeah, if you haven't, you guys are y'all live in the area, and if you go through Watauga, please stop by the Watauga Library, take a look at it, or Haltom City when it gets moved over there.
Yeah, well, I hope to move it over to Haltom City about Wednesday, something like that.
So
Steve and I are going to go try to take some pictures of it in Watauga and in Haltom getting received. So hopefully we'll do that.
It's a nice setup, and it's something everybody in D1 should be very proud of. It's a unique idea. And I want to thank again the guys that were on the Promote the Hobby Committee, led by Daryl and Harold. You were on it, and yeah. David Steckler were on it. You guys came up with some great ideas, and we're getting some good mileage out of it. So thank you again.
And now when we get into that time, we can take the canopy that was also developed for Build the Hobby and take it to 24 Hours of Saginaw, Mayfest, something like that, to get some more exposure on that. And so I think, again, once we get to that and get it set up, we want to take pictures at those events to share with the rest of the model railroading community.
So thank you, Daryl. If you've read the whistle, you know we have an upcoming clinic on a trestle build, a make and take. So Harold, where are you at? Would you come up, kind of talk about that a little bit?
Well, Wayne has been kind enough again to offer to do a clinic on trestle building, multiple scales, and it'll be a 2-month clinic starting in August, and this is July. So you're not the only one whose brain is shorting out there, Dave. Anyway, it'll be a 2-month clinic. The sign-up sheets will be where Trapper is, and you can sign up. I guess the best time will be at our break.
Don't even need to sign up, buy your material.
Okay, well, Wayne, why don't you fill in on that?
So I'll get a list out of the materials everybody's going to need to order up. Back when we dreamed this up, Hobby Lobby was still carrying stripwood sizes and what we were going to need for most of the scales, and they have stopped carrying basswood and stripwood. So I'll get this list over to, I'll copy Dick in on the email, and I'll get it over to Harold, and we'll get it out to everybody as soon as we can, because you're going to need to order some materials.
Why don't we give it to Eric so he can put it out on a group
okay. I'll copy Eric on it as well then. And basically, you're going to need a couple of different sizes of stripwood. You're going to need some NBWs. And then depending on what you want to do with this trestle on your layout, maybe some other parts and pieces to go on top of it if you are so inclined. We're going to spend the first month talking about maybe distressing some materials if you've already got them, adding a little bit of wood grain for the larger scale guys. For in scale, if you put too much wood grain in, it's going to come apart. So we're not going to worry so much about that. But we're going to talk about building the jigs. So I'm going to give everybody a set of drawings, and we're going to build jigs to put these things together with, and kind of take it from there. But we'll spend, like I say, most of next month will be building the jig itself, and then we'll start actually building the trestle. And my thought on this, after seeing a couple not too far from my house, is just like a single panel, really low trestle. This one's got a steel plate girder sitting on top of it, so we could go that route with it if you wanted to. But be a pretty simple one. But if you want to build something taller, the drawings will support that. It'll be, a full size 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So, but I'll get you a parts list together and we'll get it over to you.
And don't forget, you may be able to use this fixture for other structures or other things on your layout too. So it'll be pretty universal or pretty flexible. Thank you. Thank you, Harold. Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, upcoming events. So NMRA convention's coming up on July 27th to August 2nd, and that's in Chattanooga. And then in August, at the end of August, the Austin Train Show is coming up, and that's at the Palmer Event Center in Austin. And then in September, from the 19th to the 20th, is the annual Temple Model Train Show and RPM meet in Temple, Texas. All these events are listed on the Cowcatcher Division .org website. You can see the details there, and plan your fall travel schedule based on these events. Okay, so divisional AP announcements, Mike, anything?
Still got people that are going to be working on stuff and turning in paperwork. I'm not going to call you out this meeting. You know who you are. But we're still plugging away. And as Dwayne said in the last meeting, we've had a lot of people and a lot of participation to become one of the leading divisions in the area, in our whole region and beyond, as far as the number of certificates and the way that people are advancing through the AP program. Dwayne, do you have any numbers nationally on how we're doing? And I mean,
I don't. I basically only get my stuff, but I get monthly. I get the information back of who's gotten what for the month, but I don't really keep a lot of track on who's doing what outside of the LSR. But I could put some numbers like that together if there's some interest. But as Mike was saying, we've seen such an explosion of backlog of work of things that hadn't been evaluated over here, that the numbers you guys have put up in the last 10 or 12 years have been really, really impressive. So keep up the good work. Today's only the 11th, so I got 9 more days before I hit my cutoff to send everything to national. So if you've got some paperwork, get it to me and we'll get it submitted and we'll go from there. This month being the Chattanooga National Convention, if you're going, have a good time. Unfortunately, I had to cancel my trip, but there's going to be a vote happening on some changes to the AP. So as soon as I have information back on that, I'll let everybody know. But I should have information on that shortly after the meeting is done in Chattanooga, and I'll be able to present that next month. There's a possibility we may have a new certificate, so we'll see how it goes. But more to follow. And again, you got 9 days. So as soon as you get out of here, grab some lunch, get home, get back to work, pen to paper.
Okay, Dwayne and Mike, thank
one
you.
more thing. As far as Chattanooga is concerned, we've got several people in this room right here that have been tapped to do clinics at the national level. So I really like to acknowledge that and tell those folks, number one, thank you. And number two, keep up the good work.
Yeah. While we're talking AP, this isn't actually AP related, and we don't have Bob Barnett on, do we?
No, he was here last month, but not this month.
I was going to see if Bob was going to join us. I'm going to make a quick presentation. Give me just a second. Every year, the LSR president will do a president's award or 2 or 3, depending on the year. And these are given out at the convention. This year, I was lucky enough to get one for some of the things I've been doing around here. But more importantly, he gave out a second one this year, and the member involved was not able to attend. He had valid reasons because, happy wife, happy life, right? But she was having some heart surgery done. But Daryl Cowles, Can you step forward, please, sir? Now, I'm sure Bob had a big, long presentation about all the things that Daryl's been doing for us besides working on the library display and all of that. But, congratulations,
Oh my
boss.
gosh, thank you. Wow, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
And congratulations to you, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, congratulations to
That's why-
both of you.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, guys. Also, while I'm at it, we had a brand new contest award this year. We lost Lauren Neufeld down in Houston, was a good friend and a big help in the LSR and especially in the contest room. And his one of his friends put together a little bit of a trust, and they've got money set aside to sponsor the Lauren Neufeld Square Footer Award. And this was the first year we had it out there, and we ended up with a tie. The way this one's awarded is basically a member from the San Jacinto Model Railroad Club and a member of the contest staff go in there and they review all the models that are exactly 12 by 12. You can't be under, and you certainly can't be over 12 by 12. My buddy from Mississippi was over, and his module was actually like 1/8 of an inch in one direction and like 3/16 under in the other direction, and they disqualified it. So when I say 12 by 12, you better pull out a tape measure, baby, because they're sticking to it. However, Russell and his Rock City barn was part of the tie, and since we only had one plaque expecting one winner, we gave that one to Chuck Lind, who also got the other half of the tie, because I could bring Russell's to him.
Now, this just adds to his pile of lumber that he's gonna talk about.
He's hoarding material over here to frame himself a new train room.
I'm expecting a cold winter.
Yeah, there you go. You betcha, boss. Cool. But thanks, guys. I'm gonna make the same pitch I always make before I get out of here and let you get back to your normal programming. Really think about getting involved in the AP if you're not now. It will, I promise you, make you a better modeler. And get involved in the contest room. If nothing else, come in, sit down with us, learn how to judge. We're working on a training program. That's another thing that's actually going to be up for discussion at the national meeting, and some discussions around how to formalize that training. So we'll be working on that as soon as we get some guidelines in from national. And we'll start holding training classes at the division level and get guys in if you're interested. Even if you don't plan on coming in, but you're interested in the AP and you want to see how it is we look at a model. There's a video out on the Cowcatcher's YouTube channel where Jeff and I sat here and judged some of Dave's work. And it's a neat little video. It's gotten quite a bit of airplay. I've passed it around to the guys at National, and they really liked it. So I'm hoping to see more to follow as far as something formal as far as training goes. But as soon as I've got something, we'll get in there. And if you're interested, let me know, and we'll get some training going. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, very good. Okay, so this is a question and answer period. So this group of experts in model railroading is available for anybody who's having trouble on their layout, or they got a question on how to do something. So anybody having any issues? David Steckler. I'm surprised.
No, this one's actually fairly common.
Morning, everybody. Dust. All right, I don't have a train room. It's in a big open area. And in the morning when the sun comes through the windows, I can see all the dust in the air. I was thinking of, I'm not going to put sheets over I've got an L-shaped shelf layout. Sheets are not practical. What do you all have suggestions for electronic dust collectors or something? Something portable, not something I have to have plumbed into my HVAC system. Suggestions? Yes.
Just get a regular and then get 2 current filters and put it on each side of the.
It's, I just saw that too. Yeah. On each side?
Yeah, on each side, you just want to catch the dust film, and then you just use fan fully.
Okay. The filters don't restrict the airflow. The fan won't overheat.
Fan costs $9.
Yeah, but I don't want to catch on fire. That's
So I would,
okay.
I've got another option for you.
Yes.
So if you go over to Home Depot, they've got several different sizes of round fans, everything from about that big around up to, gargantuan. Get you the smaller one, make a little box and set it on the top so that it pulls air through the box and blows it out the top. And then you cut holes in the sides of it and you mount filters on all four sides of that. And you put it on a small furniture dolly from Harbor Freight. You can wheel it around anywhere in your room, crank it up, and it'll pull the air in, filter it, and blow it back out. I do that in my wood
I
shop.
like
Works
the
like a
two
champ.
fans on a box, filters on a box. Harold.
Years ago, I had to lay out the garage, not the best way of having it, but I put track on the ceiling, right at the edge, and then had shower curtain, plastic, that pulled it closed when I wasn't using the layout, pulled it open, both sides, both ends, when I was, that cut down on the dust.
But didn't dust come in from above?
No, because I had it right up at the top.
Oh, I see.
With little, not
I see.
big, shower curtain kinds of thing, little ones that maybe there's a half an inch of space in that ceiling, and it cut down. I'm sure that it would help. The fan idea is probably the better idea, but a combination might be best. I don't know.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Any other questions? Russell?
If you're really wanting to capture dust, if we have a unit, I actually bought it on Amazon, coming with a HEPA filter on it and charcoal for odor as well. It costs about $175, but you're gonna have to go to a high filtration, like up to a MERV 13 to actually catch the dust you're wanting to catch. Unfortunately, it will burn up the fans we're talking about. This unit sits about this tall, about this wide. We've got cats, if you ever been in my house. If you look at the filter on the inside, intake side of it, it looks like another cat's on the inside of it. But the air quality that's coming out of is probably going to be like a class 100 clean room clean. But you got to do the maintenance on it about once a month, change the filter. But you got to go to HEPA filtration to actually catch these fine particles. MERV 13 filters work real well, but on like a box fan or the round fans, it will heat that motor up.
What about those, sharp-burning stuff, like static?
Yeah, the one I'm talking about actually has electrostatic in it and there's a lot of other features in it to actually capture dust. Dust is highly statically charged, so you have to neutralize the static to actually make it attached to this filter, and it will. Before we leave here today, I'll show you what we use. It works.
Okay.
And it's about $150, $175, so it's worth every penny.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, answers? Any other questions of electrical issues, track cleaning, things along those lines? We're good? Everybody's got layouts running perfectly, right? Okay. Tips or tricks? Dwayne, do you have a tip or trick?
So we talk a lot about dry brushing. I've mentioned once about you can actually dry brush with your stains. Something else I did, so Mike's going to be talking in his clinic about military trains, and we were talking about the movie Kelly's Heroes, if you remember that one, and Oddball and his tank. Well, Mike managed to find a file for Oddball's tank, and I was going through, he printed one off for me, and I've been painting it up so we can put it in Mike's train today. And I was going through wanting to weather it up and coming up with something a little bit more modeled in the finish. And I found that I could take some alcohol ink and put that down into the well of a paint palette, and then take a brush that's about, maybe 3/16 wide, and take just the bristles, the tips of the bristles, and dip it down into it, get a lot of it off almost like dry brush, and then stipple it along there, and you get a really nice mottled finish out of it. So I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it'll be up here if you want to come take a look. And it's really dark and muddy, so I was really channeling my inner Russell while I was working on it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And he's busy talking and missed it.
Does it come with oddball?
The drawing does not. However, in the course of doing some research and trying to find some stills, I found that somebody actually has a 1/35th scale, and it does have an oddball character that you can have setting up in the commander's turret. So I'll probably be ordering that in the not too distant future, but it's a pricey kit.
Dr. Ross.
Dwayne's comment reminded me that you spray something with Dull Coat and then overspray it with a little alcohol. The alcohol clouds the Dull Coat and gives you a beautiful weathered older type of finish.
Okay, any other tips or tricks? Mr. Pearson.
I don't know if any of you have had this problem, but in the old days, when you're messing around with your track and whatever, and you break a throw bar on your turnout, you're pretty much committed to replacing the turnout. Well, thanks to a guy by the name of Jeff Otto, who has a huge layout up in Minnesota, but he's also a retired railroad engineer. I think he worked for the Chicago Northwestern. He devised these cute little replacement throw bars that'll snap into a thing that you can purchase from his, I don't know, it's called Oak Hill Model Railroad Supply or whatever. But anyway, I'll send them around. It's a cute little thing. They do snap in and they actually work. So anyway, FYI.
So any model turnout they'll work on, Tom?
Yeah, as long as it's got, the rail type on the points.
Okay, very good. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move into show and tell. Now we've got a lot of stuff for show and tell. I want to remind everybody we'd like to keep it down to 5 minutes, and Mr. Crumpton's going to be the moderator of that. So let's who's first? Well, okay. Russell's got the most, so let's start with him. 5 minutes, Russell. Walk fast.
Can't do anything in 5 minutes. Had a good time in Austin. Thanks. For y'all that did go to the Austin convention, guys, it was a great time. Had a lot of great people there. Had a good time. Contest room. We had a few more models, not as many as we'd like to see, but there was a lot more there. The competition was a lot tougher this year. There was a lot of great models. I did well, I guess you could say, but we worked hard to get these things done. So anyway, I brought models y'all have seen that have won, but y'all have not seen the Alamosa parlor car, which I'm just carefully move some stuff around so I don't break it. We got the camera on down here yet? There we go. This is a narrow gauge, scratch built Alamosa parlor car. Everything on it I'm made. Even the rails and the brass caps and all that. The best feature on this is really under the roof here. It's got a full kitchen in it, got chili cooking on the stove. I've handmade the knife and the spoon out of a piece of O2O wire, just a little hammer, and got a cold forged it out. On the table, guys drinking a beer, showing them the menus, also salt, pepper shakers, full plates, saucers, the whole 9 yards. The bathrooms are finished out. The toilets even have water in them. So it's got the luggage racks. It's got everything in the world you could imagine on it. Builds like this, guys, it's not, there's a lot of people that help me. Dwayne being one of them. Ray Bauer down in Houston's a great guy to bounce information off of. They help you because you get a little snowblind sometimes. But this was fun. Now, the only thing that you can't buy for these things, and I'm waiting for Dwayne to go scan them, is the light fixtures. So those are actually made out of earring parts from Hobby Lobby. That's as close as I can get to the real thing. So we just made those out of earring parts. It's got a copper exhaust hood on it for the kitchen. It's got an old Frigidaire refrigerator on it. If you actually look, you can actually see Frigidaire written on there. It's got a menu on the side. I did all the trim work, upper, lower baseboards, the whole 9 yards. This was kind of a configuration from the 40s. If you go there today, the Alamos cars, where the kitchen table is actually now a bar, which I'm sure they get more use out of the bar now. But it's a neat car. All the brake details all scratched except for the cylinders. Everything else is all handmade. Wow. All the Queens posts, all the bell cranks, all the rods, all the airlines, all that. And if you've noticed on the end of this, you'll not only see an airline, but you also see an electrical connection because this particular car did have a generator, so they got their power from another car. Judging guys, when they actually get into these, they get to the nuts and bolts of everything. And it scored, I think Dwayne was at 115 points, I think is what it scored out of a possible 125. Some of the things that I got critiqued on, I'm going to fix, I have fixed for Tennessee. So hopefully this will do well. We'll represent Division I good up in Tennessee. Anyway.
Very nice, Russell.
The plaques we won up are this particular model won best of show. They also won best scratch build. Got plaques for the plow, won first place for Magnus Way. So and we won some other things, just a stack of stuff there. But guys, like I said, I appreciate all that. But honestly, without help from our group and getting ideas to build a better model and through the AP program, it's like a group effort. But even though I'm physically doing this stuff without the help with everybody, you know, these things don't happen. So anyway, thanks. I appreciate it.
So Russell has been modeling for how many years now?
Six.
6 years. So, I mean, that's how far he's come in 6 years. And everything he produces is just outstanding.
Thank you. I appreciate it. One more thing I need to talk about, gentlemen. Our Pay It Forward program, you know, we've done that every year for the last 3 or 4 years. We're going to be doing, if you saw the folding layout we brought up here that we do for the kids layouts so the kids can operate, we're going to be giving one of those away. Okay. Dwayne is getting all the boxes put together now. I'm going to need some help for a couple of reasons. Out of lack of good judgment, I took a project on east of down South Texas. Anyway, I'm driving 2 hours there, 2 hours home every day right now, and I'm going to move down there. So I'm working 14-hour days. I'm going to need some help when it comes to the Pay It Forward for track laying and a few things. So please see one of me or Deborah or Dwayne for if you want to volunteer some time. We're doing it in scale. I've already got the cars bought. I got the locomotive bought. We need track and turnouts so we can get it assembled. We're not going to do any details on it because we're going to give these, whoever wins it's going to have a ball of clay to work with. So it's to get it assembled, get it done. And, you know, I've got a very small amount of time off now. So I really need y'all's help to get this done because if you've been to the train show, we had almost 500 kids last time.
A lot.
Okay. And people, Mike and everybody that helps us with that, getting to see these kids actually get their hands on a controller, it's really brief. We've had tons of parents asking where they could buy this at. So this is a great opportunity to bring the youth into the program and give them something that's not too big, not too small, but we need help getting it done because it's really important if we want to build a hobby. This is a great way to do it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Russell. Okay, Eric.
I won't take the whole time.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, mine will be real quick. I will probably be putting a clinic together at some point to talk about this, but I went out to Chat GPT to do a little work on an interior, the gas station that Dwayne put a clinic on for us to build down at the Austin Convention. And I went on to Chat GPT and I told it, hey, I need a interior for a 1950 Sunoco gas station. Okay. And then it put up a couple of pictures and I just kept refining them. I said, I need a left wall with no windows, good lighting. I also need an oil rack on one side. I need tires, a tire rack on one side. I need on the other side, I need a storage room, a bathroom entrance, on the back, I need a cash register. And so, and I just put those all together because it's on that. Oh, it's upside down? Okay, sorry. Anyway, I just put them together on a sheet and just print it out. I will eventually probably put these onto a glossy sheet before I actually put them into the building. And I will probably, I've already done this on a different program that I had seen advertised and Cole recommended. And it's one called Meshy that you can take a picture, drop it into Meshy, and Meshy will give you a 3D printable file. And I'm going to do that with the tire rack, the magazine rack, the oil rack, and so that there'll be 3D printed objects inside as well as the stuff on the walls. But I will probably be putting together a clinic soon on using AI in model railroad. So
Thank you, Eric. Harold.
30 seconds, 45 seconds. David, you want to pull up a picture? Back at my my clinic, someone mentioned using grain containers for shipping grain overseas. And finally, I found some information on that. And it's sort of back to the future. Most of the grain that's shipped by container goes to Asia. This is one of the containers that's fitted out. It has a liner that fits into the container to keep the grain from being contaminated. And at the end, it has openings at the top, which resemble the old-fashioned grain box cars, and an opening at the bottom. And you can load the grain through the top, empty it through the bottom, or actually they blow air through the top and it pushes it out the bottom. It goes to Asia more than Europe because our asymmetric shipping with Asian countries, there's so many empty containers that end up in the US. But I say back to the future because you end up with liners. I don't know what they do with the liners, but that's how the boxcars used to have liners as well. So I just thought that was interesting since I didn't have any pictures last time. Yes.
So that it's even simpler than that. They basically take the same grain door.
Yeah.
In a 4-foot boxcar and put all the grain doors in except 18 inches. Then they just put the grain spout in and they'll put 22 tons of grain.
Right.
Soybean, corn.
Right.
And 20% of all the whole grain in the United States.
Mostly soy and non-GMO grains that go to Asia that way. Also, one of the reasons why Asia is they have ports that are shallower. They can put those on smaller ships, not the big grain container. The big grain ships are too deep for a lot of the ports, and the big grain container ships are too deep. But you can put containers on smaller ships and do that. Very little grain goes to Europe by container. Almost all the grain that goes out of the U.S. by container goes to Asia.
That's a specialty container that's 1% of it. The rest of them are just a regular container.
But they're all lined. They all have lined. Not lined, because I have other pictures of just the liner, and they shake, and they have these little shaker kind of things that tip it as well. It's all very weird.
I have hundreds of pictures.
You have hundreds of pictures. Well, you're a photographer. I'm just a researcher.
What's interesting is they ship fertilizer overseas, and Mosaic fertilizer. And they showed a picture of these guys unloading fertilizer with the shovel, and I said, "So when become partners with the Chinese army?" And the guy looks at me and he said, "What?" I said, "There's a sergeant," and I said, "There's the rest of the squad doing all the shoveling." And he says, "We just thought they dressed like that." I said, "No, the Chinese army would leave some people out to go do day jobs like that."
Okay, thank you, Harold. Okay, somebody's got the this building here. Oh, this is Mike stuff.
No, I'm in the process of building a roundhouse. Actually, Mike Ross and I are building the same model at the same time and helping each other with problems. This is a Corber roundhouse kit with windows that fall out on the floor. But the back of the roundhouse turns out to be right where you stand up after you duck under to get in the layout. And when you stand up, you're looking right in the back of the roundhouse. So that meant that you're going to see interior detail and made you have to do it. That's the thing with O-scale. You can add a lot of fine detail, but the bad news is you have to. So the most prominent feature in a roundhouse floor is the inspection pits. And that's what I had to figure out how to do. And engineering it was a little bit of a problem, but I think I managed to solve it. This is the pit.
Put it back where you had it. Put it back where you had it.
Anyway, the issue was to get the pit exactly wide enough so that the track gauge so that the track gauge would be correct. And the track has to sit, the rails have to sit just on the outside of the edge of the pit. It turns out that in O-scale anyway, 1.5 inch aluminum channel turned out to be perfect. So that's what this is made of. You get, okay. Just to show you, this is the aluminum channel. It's lined with 3/16 inch basswood. The rails themselves are soldered to steel plates, actually brass 0.010 brass plates that sit on the edge of the pit. And then that rail is spiked, and it turns out that the gauge is just right. To support this, it required figuring out a bracket system, because an engine that sits on this in O-scale can be anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. And so it has to be substantial. And what I did is I made these little aluminum mounting brackets. They're attached to the channel. There's actually a slot here so that you can fine tune the adjustment once she gets the bracket screwed to the underside. This is how it fits. The layout table consists of 3/4 inch plywood. On top of that is a layer of Homosote. You have to have Homosote because you can't spike into plywood. It's too hard. So the bracket fits underneath the layout and sits like this. And then on top of all that is a 1/4 inch piece of plywood with the edge routed so that it can fit over the rail and fit up against the rail head like that. And then this will all, of course, be painted concrete color. And
Mike, how did you make the steps?
The steps are just pieces of basswood and of different lengths, and you just glue them on top of each other. Yeah, steps at both ends. Guess you can see that. It's 23 inches long. The channel comes in 48 inch lengths. So that was just right for 2 pits. The length of the roundhouse is 30 inches from one end to the other. So this fits nicely. Pardon?
The pit is 23 inches.
The pit is 23 inches from there to there. So you get 2 out of a 48 inch piece of aluminum channel.
How deep is the roundhouse?
It's about 30 inches. So you've got on the end, this is the back end. The rail goes a little bit past the inspection pit, but there's still another couple of inches before you hit the wall, which is like this. How about that? About the same. This is going to be centered in the middle, and I have already at home cut out slots in the plywood base for each of these.
How many stalls?
5 stalls. Yes. Right. That's really about. Well, give me an extra. Give me a bonus. Anyway, that's I bring it this month, because next month I hope to have them all screwed in, and the whole model is as big as a card table, so you can't really bring that to the meeting.
Thank you, Mike. And is this yours too? Okay. Mike Mackey.
you've heard me talk over and over again about it's the people. I want to take you on a little journey here. I had several locomotives that had become shelf queens sitting behind my desk. Steam engines. One was a cab forward, and I'd had several people in this room, in fact, help me to try to get it repaired. I had another brass locomotive that had belonged to Bill McClanahan of international fame. And I had another locomotive that was a Hallmark Katy locomotive. All three wouldn't run on my layout for various reasons. I reached out to a buddy of mine up in Schenectady, New York, Greg Riccardi, who's been down here a couple of times. Man, I'm really like to get these locomotives going. He said, call Paul Berkey in Tucson. And I'd known Paul for a while. Paul is he does a lot of stuff with brass and a lot of narrow gauge stuff in brass. I called Paul. He goes, you need to call Steve Lasher. Steve, and I know Steve as well. Steve was in Ohio. So I did a little video with him and a little FaceTime with him. It looks like that locomotive's out of quarter. Do you have a quartering tool? No, I don't. Well, the guy down in your area that I do know has one. His name is Steel Craver. So I went from Fort Worth to Schenectady to Tucson to Ohio to Arlington to get my locomotives fixed. Steel got them all fixed for me, and brought them in last month, and he did them all for me and got them all repaired for me in the last 30 days. And I just want to publicly thank him and give you that story. It's a great story.
Way to go, Steel. Okay, any more show and tell?
Question, ask everybody, and we talk about it. Wait, does anyone know Mike? No.
Okay, so now let's do, we'll do a show and, or we'll do deal or dud. And everybody should have gotten a red ticket as they came in if Trapper was doing his job, which he was.
While you're setting that up, I got a question for everybody. As mentioned, Eric mentioned that we did a make and take of a gas station at the convention, and I've had some people already reach out about maybe doing that here as maybe the spring make and take. Is there any interest in doing a small gas station?
Sure.
Okay. All right. We'll keep it in mind. We'll put it on the books.
Trapper, you get the winning number in there? I think you do. Okay, winning number is, and for those of you who don't know about Deal or Dud, this is supported by Model Train Crossing in Hearst. So when you go in there, please thank them for supporting the division. Well, North Richland Hills now, yes. The winning ticket is 744. Oh, sure.
Lucky number 3.
Lucky number 3. You want to see what you got. And it's a gift certificate. That's the good news. There you go. Why don't you let everybody know what you got? $15.
$15.
And oh, it's 774. 774.
774. Just walked in. Yes.
Okay, Tom, what do you want? What box do you want? Blank, 1 or 2? And he gets milk duds. Way to go. Tom, pull a ticket.
Please. Triple 777.
Who's got the airplane? 777, Mr. Pearson. No? Yeah, you gotta shake them up.
Which one? 9 or one? What I got left?
These two.
That's fine. Right here. There you go. He broke.
You want some help? Here we go. Yes. And the winner is,
He can't even do it.
I can't get it. I'm just uncoordinated. $25 gift certificate. $763.
Hey. Okay, before this is done, there's a big set of keys right there by my
One or one?
stand. Who does it belong to?
You want one or one? Okay.
Anybody got a big set of keys or medicine? Guess not.
$10 gift certificate. Once again, let's thank Model Train Crossing and shop there. Okay, before we take a break, we got a special treat coming up during the break. When we had our picnic last month, the one component of a picnic, one component of a picnic that we didn't take advantage of or didn't have was ice cream. So we have ice cream for everyone today. And once again, on the break, if you go around the right side of the layout, my right, and go around, this operations crew will dish, or you can dish up your own ice cream. Okay, very good. It's about 11 o'clock, so we'll get together at 11:15. Okay.
Spring time. Why?
Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Hope everybody's having a good Saturday. First off, it's I think it's kind of appropriate that we're having this clinic right after the America 250 celebration. It's I'm talking about this military train and the World War II aspect of it. So the first thing I want to do, those of you in this room who have served in active duty, could you please raise your hands? I'd like to acknowledge all of you. Thank you. The next thing is, you guys give me some slack because I did not serve and I did not learn everything I've learned about this military train as I've gone down this rabbit hole. So I'd like to take you on a journey and give you some background about how and why and everything and how this all started happening. And David just walked away. I was going to get him to start the PowerPoint that'll be running behind us here in just a minute. Kick us off. So the year is 2014. I go to Tulsa to their operations weekend. And when I go to their operations weekend, I end up going to a layout of a gentleman by the name of Jim Sinclair. And Jim he models Donner Pass in the days of steam. And if you ever go up there, try to get the engineer's draw on his highly specialized reefer block, because it is a magnificent train that people just go gaga over as it goes by. It's got double-headed cab forwards with a cab forward in the middle of it as a helper. And it's about a 60-car reefer block, split into 30 cars each with everything. And it's a tremendous train. But as you leave the yard and you go down, you come past a little area, a growth area, you'll end up passing a siding that has a military train on it. And I looked at this military train, and it was a World War II military train, and I fell in love with this military train. And the quest began. And so I decided I was going to come home and start building a military train. Well, if you've not ever gone down this rabbit hole before, to find the vehicles, the tanks, the Jeeps, and everything like that were made by Roco and Keebri back in the day, they are out of production now. And if anybody knows what they have, you can find them at a train show from anywhere from $35 to $55 per tank. And if you're going to build a flat car load of tanks, you can get a 50-foot car and you can put 3 Sherman tanks on it. And that's $150 for a load. Well, 10 cars, that's $1,500. 20 cars, you just dropped $3,000. I can buy a 3D printer for cheaper than that. And that's where that quest began. And so I started working and I bought a 3D printer. I went to a makerspace. And whenever I did, are you going to run that video behind us there, David, for the PowerPoint? There we go. Oh, this is my website. You can go and find out more about this on mikesroundhouse.com, but on the far right-hand side, go back up to the top, please. On the far right-hand side of the main page, go to Mike's Roundhouse, the main page right there. You see it says Texas and St. Louis over on the far right-hand in the top. You can click right there. That's my railroad. And then there's a link here. There's also layout pictures from my layout, but you can go to the special military train layout right there and slide down. And there's also different things here along with this video that I took. And this was about half the train on my layout. And you can watch it as it goes down. And we're going to go back to the back here after another short break. And we're going to walk through the train and talk about the cars and why they're where they are and the loadout and everything like that. So this is part of it right here. But I started doing 3D printing at a makerspace, and I liked the printer. Come to find out, that printer was made in Midlothian. I contacted the company in Midlothian and bought a show special from them for cheaper than their brand new one and brought it home and started printing things. And I liked it so well, I called the owner of the company and I asked him, "Are you looking for a salesman?" And he said yes, and that's when I went to work selling 3D printers. So that's how that story happened. And those of you who know my history of 3D printing, now you know why. It all started with the military train. So I started printing trucks and tanks and this, that, and the other. And I found an entire library of things on Thingiverse that a great resource for this was Military Gamers. And they're printing things in 1 to 100 and 1 to 200 scale. But with a 3D printer, you can size it up or down however you want to and go from there. So I started printing some stuff. And it was turning out pretty good. I was pleased with it. And when you blend it in with some other stuff and you put it on a train and it's rolling by, I defy some people to figure out which one's printed and which one's not, as it's just going by. And quite honestly, let's be honest about it, okay? If you're trying to figure out which one is a 3D printed one versus which one is the professionally made one from Keebri or Roco, you're focusing on the wrong dadgum thing, okay? So let's just be straight about it, right? So started doing that. Well, the word got out that I was doing a military train to some of my friends. And then one night I'm sitting at home, and I want to say it was a Sunday night, and I get a ping from a friend of mine over in Alabama. And Mr. Parham called or pinged me, and he goes, "Have you seen this on Discord?" Now, the only reason I'm on Discord is for speed. I'm going to be blunt about that. All right? Speed, that's the way you communicate with speed. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, that's okay. But Speed is a huge Discord guy, and I, at my age, at 69, I just don't have time to start learning another social platform. I just don't. But for speed, I'll communicate that way. Well, this guy found this post on Discord, and this guy says, "Does anybody want this stuff before I throw it in the trash?" And I go, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." And so I was like, and it said contact, and the guy's contact was Baldwin Baldwin Loco at, yeah. And I went, wait a minute, I recognize that. And I went to the division roster and I pulled it up, and lo and behold, Mr. Cornelius, please raise your hand. The guy in my own division is getting rid of all this military stuff. Of all the people in the world, he's in my own division. So I reached out to him privately and I said, "Are you still got this stuff?" "Sure do." "Do you, how much you want for it?" "I want it to have a good home." "Boy, can I fix you up." And it was just before, was it last Christmas? Just before last Christmas, time gets away. And he brought me 4 boxes of military equipment, 4 bankers boxes full of military equipment to the Christmas party, and gave it to me. And instantly my military train became mammoth. So I started working with it, and I started scrounging for military decals to paint these pieces that he had given me, and to make them as accurate as I could. And I'm not sure there's any micro scale military decals left in the United States right now. Okay. The last time I was trying to find some, I couldn't, and I ended up just buying water slide. Thank you. Water slide stars to go on there so that I could have enough to start finishing this train out. So as I'm going down this rabbit hole, and you've heard a lot about AI today and how it's been helpful. Well, I was introduced by AI because of my sister-in-law, who is the vice president of HR for Trinity Industries. And she was telling my wife how she uses AI. And my wife says, you probably should use this with your stuff, with your board of directors stuff with the NMRA, and see if it could work with you for that. And I started tinkering with it. Well, one thing's led to another, and I've gotten more and more comfortable with it. And just like Eric was talking about, if you drill into it and you get it refined and you start really digging into it, it will get very informationally friendly with you, to the point where it will remember you. It will remember if you log in. It will start building this database about you, what your interests are, what you keep asking about, and this, that, and the other. And it almost becomes its own personality, which can be scary. It can be creepy. It's exactly right, Deborah. And so I started asking it questions. And I built a spreadsheet of every piece that I had. Now, how did I come up with what they were? Now, I'm going to tell you, when I started this, I couldn't tell you a greyhound from a duck, from an HST. I didn't know all that. I was not a military guy, nor did I ever think that I would become someone who had the knowledge to know what all these pieces of military equipment ended up being and are. Didn't know that. Never thought I'd go down this path. So I took a picture of these things on my desk, and I loaded the picture into AI, and I said, what is this a model of, and when was it built?
And he goes, oh, well, you've got a Sherman tank. And it went into service. It was the mainstay of the U.S. Forces in the European forces. It was in the European theater, and it was also used in the Pacific theater, but primarily in the European theater. And there were several different models, and it was first introduced in 1942, and then it was modified and throughout the rest of the time in World War II. And I said, well, okay, what's this one? Oh, well, that's a Lee tank. Okay. And you've got Lees. And there was Lees. And then there was I had Pattons. I had Pershings. I had, oh gosh, now I'm starting to go blank on some of this stuff. Stewarts. I had Stewarts. I had Pattons. I had Pershings. I had LSTs, HSTs, Jeeps of multiple manufacturers, Dodge trucks, GMC trucks, half tracks, all of this stuff. And I started finding out when they were introduced and what they were used for and this, that, and the other. So then as I'm starting to get into this and I'm pulling them up and I'm building a spreadsheet of all of the different things that I had. And I loaded the spreadsheet into AI. And I said, what do I have here? And the analysis came back and it says, well, you've got some outliers. Oh, things that didn't fit with all the other stuff. And I said, well, what are they? Well, the Pershing tanks wouldn't have been in the same time with the Lees and the Shermans. The Pershings were introduced in the Korean War, not in World War II. Okay. What about the Priest? Well, the Priest were there in World War II. You're good there. Okay. But this particular truck was actually introduced in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Well, this APC was used in Vietnam. And I said, okay, so if I remove the outliers, what do I have? You've got an exact resupply lift, which is what they call a military movement, is a lift, which is something I didn't know. I mean, I'm starting to learn all of these different terms and things like that. And I'm going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. And it said, you've got an exact military lift for Operation Plunder, 23 March 1954. 1945, excuse me. 1945. Now, AI can be a little creative for you sometimes. So I went to another search engine and I did a check on Operation Plunder. Sure enough, there you have it. It was a real thing. Operation Plunder on that date, 23 March 1945, was the operation to cross the Rhine River at Wessel, Germany, to start the dash towards Berlin on the Red Ball Express. How would I have known that if I hadn't started studying this military training? I mean, this has been an educational process. So much so that as I'm talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps. Okay? It's been that kind of a thing. So I said, okay, tell me more. Well, this was the 9th Army. I didn't know what the 9th Army was. Well, who commanded the 9th Army? General William Simpson, commonly known as Wild Bill Simpson. Wild Bill Simpson, I did some checking on it. He's born in Weatherford. Oh my gosh, really? Here I am start building this military train, and it comes back, and it's this general over the 9th Army who's 15 miles from my house. How crazy is this, right? I mean, that's nuts. He ended up dying in San Antonio. He retired in San Antonio and he died in the 1980s in San Antonio. So this is crazy. But anyway, there you go. He oversaw the Allied crossing of the Rhine in 1945. So I'm starting to drill in deeper and deeper and deeper. And one day I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to set this train up and I'm going to put it out there for people to see, I want to load it outright. Okay. Now, I want to thank Ed McGinley, because Ed, go to the overhead. Ed let me borrow a book because I didn't know that the Army had manuals for stuff, but the Army's got manuals for everything. And in fact, I just found a minute ago that the Army had a manual for dog sled operations. Go figure. And so this one actually is from 1964. I tried to find one for 1945 and I hadn't been able to find one yet. Now I haven't gone to deep. I haven't gone through the wormhole to go to the Library of Congress yet, but that may become the way. You know where I'm going. But anyway, so I'm starting to talk, leave it on the overhead. I started to talk and I referred to my AI buddy and Tom Pearson's over and he gives me a hard time because we'll be doing something. He goes, go to your AI buddy and ask him such and such. And I do. And then we get an answer. So I go to AI and I said, okay, here's what I need. I want you to print me out the logistical orders for loading for a reinforcement train on Operation Plunder, 23 March 1945, in the way that it would have been presented in military terms in those days. That's pretty specific, right? And so back to the overhead. It comes in, and if you'll look right here at the top secret, BIGOT headquarters, 9th United States Army Office, G4 Logistics, European, 21 March 1945, memorandum, commanding General 21st Army. I mean, this is crazy. All right. And it starts getting really, really specific with this stuff. And it comes in and it tells you flat car number 1 through 4 is going to be 26 Persian tanks. And a secondary load is going to be a cargo truck, 1 per, and with the estimated weight. And it's got all this figured out. The computer just does this magically. And then at the end, look what it says here at the end. Chief Clerk for Major General C.P. All, Acting G4, 9th Army, top secret. It's signed by the guy who was in charge of it, okay? I mean, this is nuts. I said, okay, you smart. You can imagine what the last word was in that sentence. Talking to AI. I said, you want to be that way? Let's do this. Give me a set of the mission briefing orders as would have been done by the top staff, executive staff of the European Command for Operation Plunder Reinforcement Lift and everything for that thing. And it says, okay. Top secret, prepared by and it goes in. So then it goes into situation. Following a successful amphibious and airborne assault across the Rhine, Operation Plunder / Varsity, bridgeheads on the eastern bank have been established. However, the advance into the North German plain requires an immediate infusion of heavy armor and logistical to support the transition from a river crossing operation to a high-speed exploitation. Enemy stay-behind units and damaged infrastructure on the Weissel sector pose immediate threats to movement. Mission. And then it goes into the mission. Then it goes into the execution. and the combat loading configuration and how we're going to load it out. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes because the train is loaded in a correct pattern for this. Because as I started out a minute ago with the presentation, some of you got a history with this stuff that I don't. And in fact, yesterday when we were setting it up, by the way, and that was a task, we started setting this train up yesterday at 11 o'clock. We finished setting it up at 4:30. It took that long to get it all out of the box, configured, put it on the track, get everything done. We left here at 11 o'clock because Mr. Christ was so gracious that he was up here taking photographs of it. And it's going to be, I hope we'll be able to show you the photographs sometime a little bit later. But a pretty intense day yesterday. But anyway, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes and why it's loaded the way it's loaded, because strategically that's important. Now, I've had several compliments, and I want to thank each of you who've done that on the train and talking about its impressive nature. It's taken me 12 years to put this train together. Now, granted, there were times when I took off due to responsibilities with the NMRA on a national basis, and in addition to that, my heart attack. That caused me to kind of delay a little bit, as you can well imagine. But what you see up there, not all of it. I ran out of flat cars yesterday. This is the first exhibition of this train in its entirety ever. And I didn't know how many flat cars I really needed, even though I asked AI if I had enough flat cars, and said, yep, you're going to be fine. Well, I didn't really load it exactly the way that load the train out yesterday, exactly the same way as what AI had told me to do that. Because during the load procedure, a retired major in the Air Force with 3 distinguished flying crosses, who's still in the room, who also served as a liaison on the Army staff, said, you need to load this way, because command would have been at the front of the train so that they can get set up and handle the logistics of everything else. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that inside scoop. That's something that AI didn't tell me. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes when we go back there and walk through the train. But anyway, like I said, some of you have got a whole lot more in-depth experience with this than I do. So if I've made some glaring mistakes, please don't beat me up about it. I'm trying my best. And it's been a journey, and it's been something to walk down. I've had a lot of help. Ed McGinley worked as an MP in an armor unit. And so he's come over and he's talked to me, and we've gone through a bunch of stuff at my house to know exactly what needed to be had. And I thought I was about ready to be calling it done. So then I went back to AI again, and I said, so what do I need in this train to make it, take it up a level? Because if I'm going to start putting this out on display, and it's going to go on tour, because I started talking to museums. And up until 2 days ago, I was supposed to have it on exhibit in 2 weeks down at the Museum of the American GI at Bryan College Station off Highway 6 down there. And I was talking to them about coming down there. And unfortunately, we couldn't reach a agreement on getting my expenses paid to come down there. That didn't work out. So we're not going down there at this time. Maybe later, but not right now. I'm also waiting to hear back from the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. And I've had several people help me. A friend of mine who is with Hancock Whitney Bank, they're a big sponsor of them, and the PR people with Union Pacific, who are also sponsors of that museum, trying to get me in down there, as well as the Bush Presidential Library in Bryan College Station. So if I can get those 2 exhibits there, I think that's going to open up some doors from some other things. I've also tried to reach out to the Museum of the Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington, but I haven't had any success in getting a return phone call from those folks yet, but we'll see where that leads. But if I'm going to start showing this to these museums, there's going to be people out there who either A, been a part of this kind of stuff with those numbers are dwindling, or have a direct interest in this and study this on a daily basis, and they know far more about it than I do. So I got to kick my game up. I got to raise the whole thing up a notch. And so AI told me, oh, well, you need to add supply. Gondolas full of supplies. And then it clicked with me. If you're in a war zone and you need a hammer, you don't just run down to the corner to Ace Hardware and get a hammer. You better have it in the supply tent and have it with you. And it came from the States whenever you ended up in the European theater, right? So it's everything there. And so I start going into my detail parts in my closet. And I said, would the Army have used wooden barrels for transporting stuff in World War II? Absolutely. And I'm like, really? Wooden barrels? Yep. They not only did they ship pickles that way, and they used a lot of pickles, apparently, but anything that was dry goods that didn't require a steel drum, because remember, during the wartime, steel was going in to be used on other things that were far more important than transport. So they started handling chains and nuts and bolts and tools and things like that were shipped in wooden barrels. So that opened up a whole nother idea for me about the supply chain and what you needed to do. And then I started doing more research and come to find out the standard information about the Army is that for every person that's on the front line in combat, there's 2 or 3 behind them that's making it happen. And that's a whole nother set of pieces of information if you stop and think about it. But you got to supply these people. Well, that triggered something else with me. What about on the troop train when they're traveling? Because there's videos that I have on my website that shows how they traveled and what they did. And come to find out, and we'll talk about this when we start talking about the troop train back there, they converted baggage cars into rolling kitchens. And they would prepare food, and then they would pull into a siding, and they would get off, and they would go through the mess line, and they would get served, and then go back to their car and their location where they were, and they would start to eat, but the cooks would be getting ready for the next meal. Well, wait a minute. Where'd they store the cold food? Did they have reefers in these troop trains? Well, yes, they did. So now there's reefers in the troop train. Okay. So, it just evolved and it grew and it became had its own heartbeat, if you will, because one thing led to the next question, led to the next question, led to the next information you got. So one of the things that we talk about in model building in this is if you start doing those models and you start doing the research behind them, you become far more educated than what you ever expected in the whole path on this. Now, I owe a lot to this to Mr. Cornelius here, because I wouldn't have what I've got up there if it hadn't been for him. So I really acknowledge that, and thank you, Jeff. But it's turned into something, and I hope that you appreciate what I've been doing with it since I got it from you. One of the things you're going to see up there, and we'll talk about it briefly when I get up there, is the Army did not, in World War II, they did not use block and tackle and chains. I thought that was odd. I say block and tackle. They did not use come-alongs and chains. They blocked everything with chocks and blocks and tied it down with like 12-gauge galvanized wire. If you watch some of these videos that I've given you access to, you'll see them tying it down and putting a stick into a loop of wire and spinning the stick to tighten it up the old-fashioned way. And that's the way they tied this stuff down for transport. I also said, so what else can I do to make it better? Well, you need to add supply cars. Gondolas filled with supplies is a good thing. You need to add some blocking material. You'll see a car up there that's got some extra pieces of lumber in it for that. You also need to add people on the train. Now, I work for the railroad. We didn't let people ride freight or on flat cars. That was not a thing. So my next question immediately was, whenever I went in there, I said, did they actually do that? And was it safe? And the answer was yes and no. Yes, they really did it, and no, it wasn't safe. But then it went on to explain to me the reason why they did it. These soldiers wanted to get sentry duty because it got them out of the smoky passenger cars where all the guys were smoking cigarettes up there. The non-smokers didn't want to be in there. So they got to ride in a cushioned Jeep seat or a truck seat or whatever in the open air, or they even laid down in the back of a deuce and a half and could take a nap as they were going down the rails. And they worked in teams of 3, so they would take turn as to whose turn it was to take a nap next. Okay, and they would get extra shut-eye that way. So I added people, and you'll see people in the train. And that's why. And so I asked about that. I asked about the thing. And then I said, is there anything else I can do? Now, this is a really interesting one. And I only got this like a couple of days ago. Said, you need to add more cabooses. What? Yes. The military used cabooses as mobile sentry guard shacks in these military trains. They put the sentries in the top of the cupola. They were able to look across the load. And so every 20 or 30 cars, you're going to see another caboose up there that was manned by a sentry. And that's why you see multiple cabooses in the train. So like I say, this has been a really, really interesting journey for me to learn things about operations that happened in World War II. So let's take another quick break. We're going to reassemble back by the train here. And I want to start over on the far side. We'll start with the troop train part where all the passenger cars. So let's gather around we're going to go back and then go around the side over there. And the troop train is kind of around on the side. We'll start there and then we'll come back over here and work through this way. So I hope you've enjoyed the first part of the ceremony, first part of the clinic, and then let's get with the second part here in just a minute. Thanks, guys.
You're on.
I'll let you guys come on over here if you'd like. Ken, Mike, Russell. So I was fretting over this whole presentation and putting the train together and everything yesterday morning at 4:30 when I couldn't sleep. And I went into AI and started my chat with my favorite friend. And I said, I'm planning on pulling this train with F7s. When was an F7 put into service? 1954. Oops. So it's got to be FTs. So right here are 2 FTs that I happen to have in my collection. Now, these 2 FTs will only be able to pull the troop train part because they're not strong enough to pull the rest of it. And what I've also found out is the military would have moved the troops in a separate section of the train than the armor and the supply. And they would not have mixed tank cars with fuel or explosives in the same train with the troops. That was a safety concern, and they didn't want to do that. So let's break this train down. You've got your power. Immediately behind it, the first reefer, the second reefer. Now, wait a minute. These reefers aren't just regular reefers. They've got high-speed trucks on them, which is accurate, and I've got the right reefers with high-speed trucks on them because they were used in passenger service, so therefore they had to have the special trucks. I just so happen to have these two on my home layout. I don't have any cars longer than 50 feet or longer than 40 feet on my home layout, except for a couple of passenger cars. But I had these guys in storage. Lucky for me. And oh, by the way, one of them's in olive drab. How lucky for that is. Let's talk about that for a minute. Why is it that Pullman green and olive drab are the same? Because when the military was utilizing all of the passenger cars that Pullman Company had, they wanted all of the troop trains to have everything the same color. So they gave the paint to the Pullman Company. And before the end of the war, the Pullman Company started getting massive shipments of olive drab paint because they knew the war was coming to an end, and they also knew their gravy train of free paint was about to end. So they stocked up on olive drab green, and that's why Pullman green and olive drab is the same color. Probably one. Okay, but still, it shows that the mindset of the railroads always keep your hand out and take something free, right? All right. Mike Walter asked me a question during the break. Mike, would you ask that question again? Okay, so very good question. What I've been able to find is that in my world, this train, if you notice, there was a video playing before the meeting talking about Camp Hood. Camp Hood was the predecessor to Fort Hood. And Camp Hood was one of the locations where the troops got final training in everything that they did before they went to the embarkation ports and shipped out overseas. So this train would have been generated at Camp Hood and gone to an embarkation port. Now, where are those embarkation ports? Okay. New York City was an embarkation point, but for the South, New Orleans was. Wait a minute. What about Houston? Nope. Houston was strictly for oil. It was the oil terminal. And oil was gold because it was a major thing. And I mean, that's why the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, was to keep us from stopping them from getting the oil in all of Southeast Asia. That's what they were really, their problem was they needed oil for their economy. So that's what started that part of the war. Well, this train would have left Camp Hood and gone to Houston and then changed and gone into New Orleans. Now, when I say changed, what railroad service Camp Hood? Santa Fe. So it would have left Camp Hood on Santa Fe rails. Santa Fe didn't go to New Orleans. So in Houston, it changes to the SP, and then SP took it into New Orleans. So back to the reason about the question about the power on this train. Well, now I can't use the F units that I'd started, the F7s. But what do? Well, I had some cab forwards that I knew that Steel Craver was bringing. I cab forward, bring it back. Would a cab forward ever have been on a troop train in Texas? Nope. because the cab forwards were all restricted to the West Coast on the SP. And it said, would it ever have come into Texas? The closest it would ever gotten was El Paso. But that was very seldom. Okay, so now what do? I've got a SP Mikado, I've got a T&P Mikado, and I've got a Frisco Mikado. Can I triple head those three engines on the same train and pull it that way? Nope. Because of union rules and trackage requirements and everything, crews from those railroads didn't cross onto the other one's rails. So therefore now I'm stuck. I don't have any power to pull it with. That's why you only see one engine on the head end of that train, other than these guys right here, which are cotton belt FTs. This is a very, very obscure paint scheme for the cotton belt. The number is exactly right, number 900, and it had an A and a B unit that were always paired together. And the reason it was obscure was, and I think it's a gorgeous paint scheme, personally. A friend of mine by the name of Pat McCarthy custom painted these for me. Those are not decals. Those are painted stripes. And when he did this, these two engines are the same color scheme as a Confederate general's uniform. It did not go over well. So when I say obscure, it didn't last long, but it was what was on the FTs. Yes, sir. Those are factory. Those are Rivarossi and Walther's cars. Those are factory painted. Yes, sir. So, yeah. So this car right here is custom painted. I've got another, that car is custom painted, that Pullman. I've got another car that I had to bad order yesterday. That's a brass car that didn't do it. Now, one of the things that I did, and most of these are coaches except for these guys. These are the bunk cars, and nobody really loved having those right there. Those were nasty, bad cars. But if you got assigned to that, that's where you ended up. And you just drew the short straw. And then it started with the hospital cars. Now, I asked AP the other day, I said, did the railroads ever cars to the railroads to use in troop trains? Said, no, they didn't. But they were in the train. Business cars were in the train. Really? Tell me more. Well, the business cars, as you all know, if you've ever seen one of the business cars, these railroads, they have a kitchen in them. They've got dining areas. They've got a meeting room. They've got their own chef. Okay. So what the railroads did was they put a business car with their people in the business car, but also offered the accommodations to the top brass of the military that was on the troop train. And they're back in the back end where the top brass has got access to the private chef and a really nice berth and all that kind of stuff, and a room to do strategic planning on in and there. But also they're rubbing shoulders with the executives of the railroad, because those generals and those people are planning logistics, and they know how that freight is being routed. And there was a lot of tonnage of freight that was being moved by rail, and they're back there schmoozing to get it all done. So the other day, I took a heavyweight and converted a heavyweight car to a business car. And that's why you see that one on the that. Okay, let's talk about the military train, and we're going to walk down here into this area here and start talking in this area. So I started talking to AI, and I've gotten to where, if you noticed, I'm referring to AI almost as its own personality, its own person. And I started talking to AI, and pardon me, and I asked, okay, how would the quartermaster have loaded this train out? Well, the very first thing you've got up here on the front of the train is the construction group, construction corps. Because once the train comes into wherever it's going, now I'm using a little bit of artistic license here, so bear with me on that. But if it's getting into a war zone, the very first thing that comes off is the bulldozers, the maintainers, the front end loaders, and the tracked vehicles to move stuff out of the way, because you've got damaged enemy equipment, damaged equipment of our own army and stuff, maybe blocking roads or whatever. So they use these bulldozers and everything to get that out of the way. Okay. Now, right behind that is a supply gondola that's got supplies for that construction group. A lot of cable, wiring, hoists. There's barrels in here, and you're welcome to take a look at all this stuff and see how I've loaded that out. But this is one of those places where that supply gondola was directly adjacent to these military vehicles that had all of this heavy bulldozers and stuff like that. Followed by the priests. That's these 5 units right here. And they were a mobile artillery piece. So they were quick. They could be moved around very rapidly. And this is all stuff that I learned because of this project. These priests right here were put into the front, and they set up an initial perimeter to protect the next group that comes off this train, which is the important group in just a minute. There's also, this right here is a McAfee tank, okay? It's a light tank, but it's very fast. It's a fast attack tank. And there's one right there. There's another one right here. And they worked in conjunction with these guys right here, which is mobile artillery. Okay? And this mobile artillery would set up an extended perimeter and be able to fire on the enemy, while these guys right here, these right here is the command. And as I was informed yesterday, there were about 7 of these command units all together, and they stayed together as a unit. And that's where you get that. And all of these from here all the way back to the staff car is your command group. Okay. Followed by your HSTs. That's these guys. They stand for high speed towing vehicle. That's what an HST stands for. And they were used to pull the long toms. The long toms were an extended, they fired longer than the mobile artillery. They had a longer reach on there. And the long toms were for further assault. Now, if you remember that when we were looking at the object and the mission and all that kind of stuff, and it was talking about we've got them on the run, but we need to extend the beachhead and the amount of land we've got on there. Okay, we need to keep them moving back. Well, that's what they're doing here. They're setting up short-term initial area, followed up by the long toms that's going to reach out a little bit further and keep the enemy moving back. So this is why it's all set up that way. Next, you've got shorter artillery that's quicker artillery right in here. Howitzers. Okay? And if you'll notice the vehicle, the towing vehicles for this is a lot less size than these long toms. Obviously, it's just due to capacity. All right. Yes, sir. No, those are, yes. No, those are all are long toms. Yeah, that's right. One is, it's just a caliber of shell. But it was still called a long tom. All right. All right. So now you've got smaller artillery back to here. And if you'll notice, you've got people in the Jeeps right here, right here. There's other people up through here that are in those vehicles like I talked about, where they're riding as sentries. All right. You got some more artillery right here coming on around. Another piece. This was a first generation mobile artillery. Those over there are second generation. More Jeeps. And one of the things you'll notice on the top is you don't have your Modus on the Jeeps. These right here were 3D printed. That one's not. Now, if you're just looking at those, you wouldn't have been able to pick out which one was 3D printed and which one's not if I hadn't have identified it for you. This one's 3D printed, but it looks just like these others, other than the fact that it's got a cover over the top of it, right? Now, the machine guns that are mounted on the top, like you saw in the Rat Patrol and everything like that, they were not on the vehicles when it was being transported in most cases. If they were a sentry vehicle. But you'll notice these are right beside the caboose. And that's where your sentry is. So they can get to that right there and use those guns if they needed to in short order. That's why those are still there. But you don't see them on the other stuff, even though it was mounted that way. Also, on all of the armor, the barrel is always pointed into the rear. Okay? Trash, dirt, birds, whatever, to keep those from being in there as their train's going in its direction. All right, so you got Shermans. Well, these are Lees right here. Okay, I got 4 Lees right there. By 1945, the Lee would have normally been phased out, but I had them in my inventory, so I went back to ANI and I said, is there a scenario where the Lees would have possibly been in the train? And they said, well, if they were still in the European theater by 1945, the Army wouldn't have not used them. They would have changed their mission. Instead of being what they originally started for was a battle tank, they would have used them for light cavalry support of infantry and used them in mopping up stuff in French cities and German cities. So yeah, there's a possibility that they could have been used there. If they were still in the theater, they would have still taken advantage of using them, because at this point in the war, it's all hands on deck. Use what you got and for maximum efficiency. The Shermans start right here and go all the way down there. The Sherman was the main tank that we used in World War II in the European theater. There are several different versions of that tank on this train right now. And they all, some of them, if you look at one of the ways that I've been able to understand that changed is the suspension on the side is one thing. The barrel size was another one, the caliber of the barrel that they used in later years. A little bit of the design, some of them, it got bigger. This one's bigger, as you can tell, than this guy. And it was the size, efficiency, engines. The Shermans started out with a regular General Motors or Chrysler motor, and then they went to a Rolls-Royce engine when they started working with the Europeans on it. And the Rolls-Royce engine changed the speed and efficiency of the tank. And it really became a much more efficient battle tank when they started doing that. As we come on around, there's Oddball right there. Some of you remember the movie Fury. that Brad Pitt was in there and the whole story on that. Y'all can come on around. We're not gonna be over in that area anymore. So y'all can come on around. Fury's actually on here. And I've got them. Here's Fury down here. And you can see on the barrel, it's actually painted on there. I have got a track that has come loose. And I've got to get my maintenance crew in here to fix that. Yeah, very, very prototypical. Yeah. The whole thing is jacked up. So I'll get that fixed. All right. That tank is a Grant right there. And it's a light infantry tank. So then they start getting them. This right here, these two right here are called Greyhounds. Okay. It's a fast attack wheeled vehicle that they used in the area in association with moving into French cities in support of infantry that were moving into the city. Next, you got some supply vehicles. I ask about these containers. Oddly enough, the U.S. military was the very first containerized inventor. And they use these containers like this for command locations. They would fill them with their instruments and communication stuff that they needed and put them on flat cars. And so they were actually command. And it probably would have been better for me to move these over with the command units. But we were assembling them here, and this is where they were. But they were the very first, U.S. Army was the very first people that started using containerized equipment. And they were doing that back in World War II before the rest of the world started using containers for shipping and stuff like that. So that was an interesting piece to me. Fuel for the tanks that you had, more boxcars here for armor. I mean, for armament and weaponry. Then these guys right here are ducks. And when I started talking to AI, I was saying, would they have used these trucks and things inside of a military lift? Would they have been loaded with supplies? They said, absolutely. It's like I said, it's all hands on deck. Get the supplies to the front any way we can. Load up every vehicle, every square inch that you could, and get supplies in it so we can get more stuff to the front and use it. So you'll notice that in the cargo bays of these guys and in the cargo bays of this half track and all these ways through here, there are supplies, barrels of this, crates of that. And those crates could have been anything from, rifles to bullets to explosives, grenades, could have been anything, but they used them all. Then you've got supply trailers. You'll notice here, this guy's got his Modus on the top, but there's also sentries in that back of that half track. Another sentry caboose right here. And then we start going more back down this way. We've got more half tracks, another sentry half track here. And then we've got some ambulances. You've got 3 ambulances, the kind you used to see on the start of MASH, rolling in there. That's what those are. Those were made by Dodge. I didn't know that ahead of time, but that's a Dodge vehicle. Then you've got this guy right here. He looks a little more modern, but it was actually introduced in 44. It is called a Dragon Wagon, and it was a tank recovery vehicle. Didn't know that. Then you've got Pershing tanks right here. Right here, coming around here. not, wait a minute, let's see. Those aren't Pershings. Those are, they're Pershings? Okay, thank you. I thought they were, but it didn't sit right with me. They're not patents. I know that. Patents weren't introduced until Korea. But those are Pershings. Now, can you believe that those are all 3D printed? Every single one of them. They look pretty good, don't they? The turrets were separate. So as we come on around, AI, I said, what else do I need? AI said, well, you need some ducks. You don't have any ducks. There would have been at least 8 ducks on this train. Oh, really? Yep. And oh, by the way, the ducks they're so heavy. If you look at the duck, they're beast. They're huge. They're so big that the cargo hold could hold a Jeep. And they use them to transport Jeeps that way across rivers and marshes and stuff. And it was an amphibious, the correct military term on that was a LAV, light amphibious vehicle, a LAV. And it was amphibious. It went across water, and the rear hatch on it dropped down. But, oh, by the way, it's too heavy to go on a regular flat car. It takes a heavyweight flat. Hello, eBay. Now I've got to buy heavyweight flat cars. Again, the thing's taking a life of its own. All right. So those 2 cars right there that you see with the USAX on it, I found out. Now it's the DODX is what you see on military vehicles. Department of Defense X. An X at the end of the reporting marks means that it's not a railroad. It's a private entity. And that's still true in today's environment. All right. But back then it was USAX in World War II. So whenever I got 2 of these cars, they were trailer train heavyweight flat cars. Trailer train didn't exist in 1945. So guess what? We got to repaint them and reshop them. And now they become olive drab USAX cars and repainted and lettered. I also found out, because I was 3D printing flat cars. And by the time I set this up again, over in those boxes over there, behind Stu, there's probably another 20 flat cars worth of vehicles and stuff that's in there that didn't make it out here because I ran out of flat cars. Okay, another 20 cars worth. Think about that. Okay, more half tracks, more supply vehicles of different sizes and shapes, water buffaloes for that were used to supply water to the troops in the field kitchens, smaller trailers and transports for fuel, different things. But anyway, I had to reshop these heavyweights and paint them olive drab and make them into military vehicles. So then we come around and we had, oh, by the way, we're supposed to have 8 ducks in a lift this big. So I started printing them off, and those are all 3D printed as well. Coming around, it said, you don't have any bridge floats in your train, in your supply train. And things that would have been laid down for the bridges to be immediately assembled and put those things together to make a float across a river. Where would they have been held? They would have been put in a gondola. And these gondolas here are drop-in gondolas so that they could be driven across and loaded stuff circus style. So I had to, wait a minute, didn't have any of those. Hello, eBay, give me 5 drop-in gondolas now. Okay. Somebody asked me, do you know how much you've got invested in this train? And they said, is it about half as much as, about twice as much as you told your wife you spent on it? And I said, she doesn't know, nor do I. Because it's just, like I said, it's just grown. This is 12 years worth of it, as you can see. And then I went to Houston for Hooters one year. Not the restaurant. Okay. The interchange in Houston was called Hooters because somebody had had too much time and too many beers, and that stood for Houston Owners and Operators of Tiny Electric Railroad Systems, Hooters. And so I went down there for the ops session, and I had taken part of this train and operated it on Gil Freitag's Stony Creek and Western. And I've got some pictures of that, and I'm very, very proud of that because that railroad doesn't exist anymore. And to have my military train on Gil's layout was an extreme honor. But I had it on there. And so the next day I went to a guy's layout up in Conroe. He goes, hey, you got that military train? I said, yes, sir. He goes, I got something for you. So he gave me these 3 rail guns at the end of the train right here. And I thought, nah, not really. No, those are just kitty things that you don't have really. That's just something that Tyco threw together and put. No, that really was something. And those guns right there, they did not go to the European theater, but what they used them for was they set them up along the coastline of the United States, and they were coastal battery guns. So in this train, rather than have them sit on a shelf or stay in a box, they're being transported from one location to another in this train so that they can be deployed along the coastline. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Folks, it's been a long journey. It's been a long clinic. It's now, my watch just died. It's been a long journey, and it's a long time. There's a lot of work that's gone into this train in the last 12 years. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed the clinic, and I hope I've done a good job for you. Thank you very much. Any questions that you might have that popped up, or have I covered things for you? Yes, sir. That's correct. That's exactly right. It wasn't even a thing. Yep. So you're welcome to sit around, look at this, look at it, take all the pictures you want. We'll start tearing it down in another 20 minutes or so as everybody starts to leave.
Hey, Mike.
Last call on coffee. If anybody wants coffee, and if there's 3 or 4 or 5 people that want to hang around, we're going to tear it down because I've got to get it dismantled and put away. Yes, sir.
Hey, before everybody takes off, I've got some giveaways from a very famous painter. They're prints of railroad pictures, or famous railroad pictures. And let me show you one. You know what? I don't really know. Something like that. So
Yes, sir.
this is an example of one. There's several other ones. And please pick up the chairs and put them away.